Welcome back. Hope you're all doing well. I'm wore out this morning. I've got myself a dedicated run, and it's kicking my butt. But it's, you got a tiger by the tail. You can't let go. You got to ride it, especially right now when freight is so bad. But this is this particular run is something I found on a load board on a Sunday. And like I've said many times, you've got to study that load board all day, every day, be on it, crash it. I mean, just look at every single load. You don't know, you might be towns you never heard of or you don't want to go to, but you look at that load anyway just to see what it says, because you never know. And this is kind of one of those where on a Sunday I got on a load board and I looked and I said, hey, what's this? And it turned out to be a little something. But I'm not going to show you where it's at. I'm not going to show you anything about it. And I'll tell you why a little bit later. But right now I used to do the load board videos, and I haven't done any of those in really a long time, not any in-depth ones, but I've had several people ask me for some load board videos, so I'm going to do that this morning and just to see what's out there. I actually have not been on the load board in over 2 weeks. I haven't had to look at a load board in over 2 weeks, so that's really good. But I don't know. The only indication I have that freight is getting better is by the number of emails and the number of calls I've been getting. And I've been getting quite a few over the past couple weeks, and that's usually the way it works out. You commit to something and then people start calling you for other stuff. So man, that's a lot of gray in there. So let's get into some load board videos, and I'm just going to let you guys take you guys through truck stop and dat board for right now, maybe one other, but let's look and see what's going on out there. All right, let's do a load board look. Haven't done this in a while. I have a couple people that were asking me about a couple of different areas, and I'm just going to do power only, but it'll give you an idea of how many loads are around and what you can expect from each one. I'm going to tackle this from a perspective of somebody that's just starting out or just looking into it and what they need to know. So let's get into it. I'm just going to use dat board and truck stop, and I've got Phoenix in there, 450 miles, and I'm just going to do Phoenix because that encompasses Los Angeles, Las Vegas, New Mexico, El Paso, just a lot of areas in there. And if you're looking to stay in California, this is probably going to be the most loads you're going to see, going to Northern California or Vegas or something like that. So looking at today through February, when is February 19th? Monday. And you're going to see lots of loads, I'm sure. 11,616. Don't get too excited, because this is what dat board does. This is why I don't like dat board all that much, because of all these jackass scammers. I'm gonna just say it like that. They will, and dat board allows them to do this. They list loads over and over and over. There may be one trailer sitting out there, and there about 5 or 6 different companies are infamous for doing this, but they'll find that trailer, who's ever wanting to move it, and these companies will compete with each other, and they'll start listing this on the dat load board, and each one will list it 50 times. The next one will list it 50 times, and the next broker will list it 50 times. And then when they look back and see their listing isn't at the top of the load board, they'll start listing it again. So throughout the day, you might have one single trailer that's listed 800 times. And as you can see with my screen, I have my phone mounted on my dashboard right beside my steering wheel. So I can go down the road, I can just use my thumb, refresh the load board, look down real quick, and see what new loads are on the load board. But the way that DAT allows these jackasses to do this, you can see that I can only see 3 loads at a time. You see that there are 11,000 loads listed here, and I guarantee you there's 11,616. I guarantee 11,000 of those are just duplicate or scam listings. And it's extremely frustrating, and it makes it almost impossible for you to compete with somebody that's just sitting there at a desk with a couple of laptops or a couple of computer screens where they can see a lot more at one time. So there are different ways to filter it out. You can filter, the heaviest load first, or the one that pays the most, or something like that. But when you start having to do that, you start missing loads. And when I go through this, I look at every load, even if it's not one that I would normally do. I'll look at the load, I'll open it up and just see what it says inside. You just never ever know. So you've got to study. That's how you study these things, and you've got to stay on the load board all day, every day. But start out with this first one. It looks like it's a good rate. There's lots of things you can see on this main screen here with just the listing on it. But it looks like a good rate, $4.81 a mile. But if you look down on the bottom left, it's 80,000 pounds. So it's oversized. Let's see, it doesn't give you any other information on that, but yeah, that's something you bypass pretty quick. Here's one. This looks like a really decent load. Anaheim, California to Las Vegas, Nevada, $950. It's a good profit for a pretty short run there. And okay, this is why you look at it and you always call and ask questions. It says in the comments, sliding fifth wheel. Why on earth would you need a sliding fifth wheel for a 53-foot trailer? It's concerning, but when you call them, that's one of the questions you have to ask. It doesn't make any sense, and sometimes agents just don't know, and they put the same thing in everything. But this one, they're paying well above average for this load, so there's something to it. So let me go back to that one. You'll see that it has an automatic booking button. If you're signed up with that company, you can just hit that button. It'll take you to the site, and you can book that load without talking to anybody. But do not do that on loads like this where you have questions. Pruitt, New Mexico to Hobbs, New Mexico. Okay, this is another one that's concerning. This is Total Quality Logistics, this one at the top. TQL is what they're called. And they usually offer extremely cheap rates. They have a lot of freight, and they're very difficult to negotiate with. But let's look at it. There has to be a reason they're offering one enclosed trailer, 55-foot trailer. Doesn't really say anything. Power only, ready Thursday. I'm not sure about New Mexico laws about a trailer of that size. Usually 53 feet is your normal size trailer. And then, if you're doing flatbed, you can have a little bit hanging over the back, but each state is different. So that's something you have to talk to them about. There has to be a reason that they're offering $3 out of the gate, because they don't normally do that. Fenici LLC. I've heard of these guys before, never done any work for them. LA to Denver. When you're looking at loads, you not only have to look at the rate you're getting, and that rate has to correspond with where you're going and what you're going to be looking at when you get there. Like Denver is dead. You can expect that when you get to Denver, if you're not going to deadhead and you're going to try to book a load out of Denver, you're going to get just over $1 a mile, because there's lots of desperate jackasses that go in there and want to get something out. Okay, this is chassis. These are not easy. There's a place right by my house that builds these things, and I can get a load out of there every day. But this is labor intensive right here. The chassis are normally what you see them putting containers on, 20 and 40 foot containers. And so what they'll do is they'll stack 5 of these chassis together, and then it's your job to secure those chassis. And I'm telling you right now, I've been doing this a while, and it takes me over an hour of some intense labor to get these chassis secured well. I see a lot of people going down the road and they have about 4 or 5 straps on them, and I'm just saying, oh my, you're gonna die, because these chassis, they're basically stacking flat slick metal on top of flat slick metal. It's like stacking marbles. If you just put a few straps on it, if you ever have to slam on your brakes, those things are coming through the cab. I really secure these things well. I put about 4 chains on these things, and then I put at least 1 strap on every single level. Most of the time, 2 straps. So there's a lot of securement going on here. And another question you have to ask is, do they have ladders that you can use? Because if they don't, then you're talking way more time and way more physical activity to get these things secure. But for me, it takes about an hour and a half to get these things secured right. And there are times when I've secured these things and I thought I had them perfect and that there was no way they were going to move. And you get to a certain place and the road is bumpy and you're trying to slow down at the same time, and these things are moving all around. They're just, I'm not saying don't do them, I'm just saying be careful. So out of LA and San Diego, you're going to see a lot of chassis coming out of there, and $3 a mile is normally a good rate, but if you're going to do physical hard labor and on both ends, remember, then you need more than that. Here's El Paso to Deer Park. Let's see what this is. This is a good rate already on the, okay, 12 feet wide. So the good rate, you've got to be careful with oversized too. A lot of people see oversized and they see the good rate and they're like, man, I want to do that. And I'm here to tell you, back when I was with Landstar, I did a lot of military freight. I did some oversized, but when you're doing the military freight, you're kind of running with the same people over and over if you get in good with an agent. And when you show up, you see these guys with the 20-year-old trucks, and they got their drop deck trailer or their low boy. And the thing is, I'll give you for instance, I showed up one time, same guys, I'm picking up 2 Humvees on my step deck trailer. The guy I was talking to, he was picking up a personnel carrier or something, and it was wide and it was tall. He was getting paid $1,000 more than me to go 700 miles. And I always try to write these things down and think about them and see if it's worth it. And so he started getting loaded, and they came and got me. They put the 2 Humvees on my trailer. I got him chained down. I came back up, and he was still securing that carrier. And I watched him for a minute. He got it all done. He backed under his trailer and got ready to go. And I said, hey, I'll follow you out. And he goes, well, it's going to take me a couple hours to get my permits done. And I said, you know what? I'm going to grab something to eat. And so after eating, I called him and I said, hey, you ready to go? He goes, well, it's getting dark, so I'm just going to go down the road here and park because I can't drive at night. Okay. So I started thinking about that trip. I did 300 miles that night. I delivered the next morning. He wasn't going to be able to deliver the next day. So that means he wasted that part of the evening. He wasted all the next day, and then he delivered the next morning. I got delivered middle of the day the next day, and I picked up another load. So who made more on that? He didn't do a lot of work, but you just have to weigh those kind of things. That big money might look good, but you got to think about all the other little things that go along with it. That was a kind of a rant there, but Entourage Freight Logistics Solutions, Gallup, New Mexico to Dallas. Power only team. Why on earth? Well, I was going to say, why on earth would a team take that? But you're in Gallup, New Mexico. It's probably the only thing there. Here we go. Las Vegas to Pico Rivera, California. Bainbridge Brokerage. I've done work for them before. Must pick up and deliver 2:15. Power only. Live unload at drop facility. Okay, that's another thing you got to look at. Most of power only is drop and hook, and it's really efficient. And that's why you can accept the lower rates, because you're not wasting your time. You're not wasting, money waiting at a dock and idling your truck or what have you. You pick up a trailer, you drop it, you can find another one, keep going. So when they have these that they say it's power only, but it's a live unload, you got to call them and start asking questions. How long does the live unload take? How much do they pay for detention? And where is the trailer drop after it unloads? That's an important one. Some of these jackasses will want you to take the trailer, 50 miles to their lot somewhere. All right, here's one. Somebody had asked about California. So look at this top one, Ontario to Woodland, California. Let's click on it just to see what it is. All right, doesn't say anything, so you just assume it's a power only drop and hook. When you're in California, you've got to think about a couple of things, especially if you live in California. But you got to think about your expenses, fuel, insurance, what you're paying out of your pocket. This looks like a good rate, and normally, around my area, Texas, this would be a decent rate. California, I wouldn't touch this thing. It's $2 and what did it say? $2.40 a mile. It's going to take you basically the whole day to do this, and you're going to make $1,100 on the rate basically. But your fuel out in California is almost twice as much as what it is here. Your insurance is going to be a lot higher. You really have to sit down and put pencil to paper to figure out if this is going to make you any money, and if it does make you money, is it enough to keep you in business, to take care of your maintenance and everything? I have a lot of people that ask me about California and they want to run up there, and it's very difficult. Recently they ran the lease operators out of there, and companies, unions want to take over places like California and the East Coast because they can put their guys on this, and they can charge them union dues, and the company is happy to a point. But there's politics and all kinds of things going on. But you just have to ask questions. You have to write it down. Just see what it costs your truck to run per mile, and if it's worth it. I go out to, I haven't been out there in a long time, but I usually do what I call my Colorado loop. And what I'm doing it throughout the week is I'm waiting for that golden ticket. I'm waiting for that load that pays over $4 a mile, that's going to, who knows, Wyoming, Idaho, Las Vegas, something like that. Because I know at a certain point, if you do the math, what that golden ticket is, that one load that pays enough to get you out there, and then you don't have to worry too much about the rate getting back. It kind of averages it out. So I'll jump on that one going out wherever, and then I'll do a loop around Colorado. I just stay out of Colorado altogether. But while I'm out there, sometimes you reach an endpoint. Whether you're going north of Colorado and you're delivering, you usually can find a load going down to Phoenix, and then you kind of reach a dead point trying to get back east. And the same thing goes for the other direction. You take a load out to Phoenix, you can usually find a load going up to Vegas or Salt Lake City, and then kind of dies. You can't find anything going back east for a decent rate. So what I'll do sometimes is I love driving out there, and I'll just find loads going back and forth. And you can do that a lot between like Salt Lake City and Las Vegas and Phoenix and Reno, where you're getting these short runs, and you're not hitting a lot of traffic, except when you go through Vegas or you get into Salt Lake City or something like that, and you're just out in the country, and you can make a somewhat decent living just puttering around out there until you can find something going back east. But for you guys that are out there on that West Coast, from Los Angeles to Vegas to Salt Lake City and back in that zone, that area, that's a pretty good lane to run because you can find freight going back and forth pretty much through there constantly. Phoenix to Astoria, New York. I see these all the time, and I kind of laugh because when I remember the first day that I was able to get on load board, I saw a load going out to California, and I can't even remember what it paid now, but I just saw that rate and I was like, oh my God, that's good money. And at that time, it actually was good money. It was a good rate going out there, but there are way too many people who do that. They'll just see that $6,000. Oh man, $6,000 for that load, and they don't look down and see that it's 2,500 miles, and it's going to take them 4 days to get out there if they're lucky and they don't run into traffic or weather or something like that. But it just and on top of that, there are so many people in California that all they want to do is leave California, go to the East Coast, and come straight back. So they're taking any freight they can. They're not negotiating, and they're just going for it. So you got to be, if you see $6,000 or $7,000 or something like that, you just, like I said, use your pencil, put it on paper, and see how much it's costing you. And you may find out it's much more profitable to do short runs than that one long run. There are weeks where I just don't want to fool with a load board. I'm on these things all the time, and I see that long run like that, and I figure up how much my profit is, and I say, you know what, I'm just going to do it this week. And that's your prerogative. But okay, San Pedro to Edgerton, Kansas. I have a feeling this is going to be a chassis also. It doesn't say it, but I'm certain it is. It says you must have 5 to 7 chains. Again, that's labor intensive. So I definitely wouldn't do it for $2.27 a mile. However, Edgerton, Kansas is not a bad place to end up. But here's what happens right here. You see that the fifth wheel freight has this one load listed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, there may be 5 stacks of chassis out there, but why do you have to list it 5 times? List it one time and have people call you. These people start competing with each other, and this one jackass will list it 5 times. The next jackass will list it 20 times, and throughout the day, they're competing with each other to get that load on top of the load board. And why DAT board allows them to do it, I don't know. It's just extremely frustrating. Chandler, Arizona, Las Vegas. That's that one would normally be a decent load. Hook and drop, 53 feet. This is exactly what you want, but $700. I'd definitely get them up on that rate. It's a long, hard pull from Los Angeles up to Nevada. You're not going to get good fuel mileage, and you're going to pay a lot for fuel. So, all right, look, here we go again. That exact same load that the other people are offering $3,700 for, these people are offering $3,600 for, and let's see how many times they've got it listed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It just doesn't make any sense. This is the nightmare of the DAT board. I have my phone mounted right by my steering wheel, on my dashboard, so that when I'm going down the road, I can use my thumb, refresh the load board, and I don't have to take my eyes off the road any at all. And once I refresh, I'll look down real quick to see if there are any new loads on the load board. But how can you do that when there are 11,000 loads listed over and over and over? How can you find just a few legitimate loads out of all those loads? It's a nightmare. And you can't compete with somebody sitting at home with a couple of desktop computers looking at these things. So look, it's ridiculous. It's listed, and this is another company. They've got it listed for $3,800. Well, that's going to Illinois. Never mind. I jumped ahead of myself there, but okay. Here's one: from Phoenix, Arizona to Brookshire, Texas. If I'm out there, this would be the one I'll be like, oh, I'm calling on that one right now. Let's see what it says. Pintle hook. That's another thing. Brings up another point. This one you have to have a pintle hitch. You've got to be versatile. You've got to get you a headache rack. You have to have chains, some straps, some tools to do flatbed. A pintle hitch would really come in handy. I don't have one. It's something I've been thinking about for a while. Pintle hitch loads pay pretty good money. They're not always as straightforward as van loads or regular drop and hook, but you have to be versatile. San Diego to New Orleans. Let's look at this one. That's another one. If I was out there, I'd be like, hey, let me look at this one. Again, chassis. Labor intensive. You're going to spend over an hour chaining these things up. You're going to be hot and sweaty. And then when you get to the other end, you got to unchain them. Something to think about. All right. And then we have another jackass that wants to list one load for 50 times. Okay. Tempe, Arizona to Las Vegas. This is what I was talking about. There are plenty of these loads going from Arizona to Vegas and Vegas to LA and LA to Salt Lake City. So you can run back and forth through there, but remember the cost of fuel, cost of everything is way more out there. Okay, and here's I think the third people who have listed this load. The first one was listing it for $3,600. The second one was listed for $3,700. These people have it listed for $3,000. I guarantee you it's chassis. Yep. And these people are going to list it who knows how many times, and then 30 minutes from now they're going to list it 20 more times. What a pain in the butt. I'm trying to find some going let's do some just in California. Okay, here, JB Hunt's a terrible example, but Phoenix, Arizona to Lebanon, Oregon, $2,300. This is the problem with if you want to stay on the West Coast, or versus venturing out a little bit. If you're staying in California and you're taking loads like this, you're going to go out of business really quickly. In my truck, I don't know, I haven't done the numbers. I don't know exactly what the price of fuel in California is right now, but I'm guessing it's probably going to cost me close to $1 or more just for fuel to run out there. This, taking loads up and down the West Coast for $2 a mile or anything less than, for me, it would have to be $2.75 or $3 a mile or more for me to take anything inside California. I mean, up and down that West Coast. You're going to pay for parking. You're going to pay high insurance rates. It's tough. Let's see. Trying to find some more going up and down that West Coast. Wow. Oh my gosh. Look at this. San Diego to New Jersey. $1.77 a mile. Ain't gonna do it. I see these all the time, and I see people taking these loads for really cheap rates, and I also see these people on the internet saying, stop, these people are driving down rates, and that's what's wrong with the industry. These new people don't know what they're doing. They're not negotiating, and that's only true to a very, very small extent. The market sets the rates, and some of these brokers are making really good money off of us, but they do that in any type of market. But it's just up to the individual person to negotiate. those people that are saying, oh, that, you know, these people aren't negotiating, they're driving down the market. Well, why are you worried about it? If you're such a good negotiator, you're going to get that money, right? But I complain sometimes because I'm thinking about, you know, these people and their livelihood. There's something they're not thinking about. I don't understand, you know, how these people can be taking $1.30 to $1.40 a mile on these loads and stay in business for very long. Yeah, those are looking pretty terrible. Let's look over here at Truck Stop. Truck Stop is my favorite load board, and there's not as much crap going on Truck Stop. So let's look. Phoenix, Arizona, 500 miles. There's 132 loads. That's much easier to navigate. You don't see a lot of the relisting stuff going on Truck Stop. And another bonus is that Truck Stop has a separate category altogether for loadout trailers. So, but you still get some jackasses who they try to fool you, put the loadout trailers in power only just to try to get it out there for people to see, and it's a pain in the butt. And I guarantee you, let's look at this first one. Fifth Wheel Freight, Ontario, California, Jackson, Mississippi. Is listed as power only. Yeah, this is definitely going to be a loadout trailer, because nobody in their right mind would take something for 33 cents a mile. They're just trying to fool somebody. Okay, here's what you see a lot. A TQL. TQL has lots of loads. You really have to stand, and here we go. They listed it as a power only, and it's a loadout trailer. They know what they're doing. They're just trying to fool you. I get upset with these guys. You know, you call them and say, hey, you got this load, power only? Oh, yeah, it's a loadout trailer. Well, why the hell did you list it in the power only category? You know, when you're going down the road and you're trying to do this yourself, it really gets frustrating. And all of these, you know, it's TQL. They know what they're doing. They know that this is a power only category, and they're listing all these loadout trailers in the power only category. Every single one of these is TQL with a loadout trailer. And it's just very frustrating. But so what I end up doing is swiping right, and, you know, just trying to get past all that crap. And here you go. This is one we saw over on the DAT board. It's chassis. This is the same company, Fifth Wheel Freight. They're offering going to Edgerton, Kansas. But as you can see here on Truck Stop, they've only listed it once. So I don't know what the difference is between the two, but again, you don't see a lot of that relisting here on Truck Stop, which really helps. All right. Again, you can just tell right off the bat that these are TQL trying to scam people. You know, this is San Diego to Alabama, and they're offering 49 cents a mile. Obviously, it's going to be a loadout trailer. Obviously, they know, because they've listed in the power only category, and then on the ticket they're saying it's a loadout trailer. So very, very frustrating that these load boards let these people do this. It's just it's just a waste of my time if I have to sit here and peruse all these. I want power only. I don't want a loadout trailer. But you can see TQL, 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 all loadout trailers. So let's look at it a different way on here. Posted rate. This is one way you can sort out the good from the bad here. Okay, that we've seen that one over on Truck Stop. You will see. This is a question I get a lot. You know, what load boards do I need? Truck Stop, or do I need a DAT board? And I have both, because you will see some duplicate loads, but you'll see a lot that aren't duplicate. Some people listing on one and not the other. Landstar only lists on one and not the other. So for me, I would say you have to have both. as you can see, for those asking about California, there's not a whole lot of loads within California. Now again, I'm looking at Phoenix, 500 miles out, so I'm only covering Los Angeles and the lower part of California. But you can see there's just not a lot going straight north. Here's Bakersfield to Washington. It's only 20,000 pounds. Let's see what this is. Hook and drop, that's what you want, but it's only 220 a mile, or 250 a mile. So it doesn't start out too bad, but I would definitely ask for more. Landstar, they're usually pretty good about negotiating, so just call them up, make them an offer. I think a lot of people are afraid to insult somebody. They don't want to negotiate. They don't want to talk to anybody. But here's the thing: you call them up and say, "Hey, can you do 3,000 on this?" Lots of times they'll say, "Well, let me take a look at it," or they'll say, "No, this is all we got in it." And then you just say, "Okay, well, I appreciate your time," and you hang up the phone, and it's just an easy conversation. But there are a lot of people that will not do it. They just dread making that phone call. You could get $300 extra out of it. Now, I wouldn't call them up and say, "Hey, can you do 4,500?" And just insult them. There's a point where you're going to be insulting somebody, but you just never know. So, let's see. Omaha, Nebraska, Chalmette, Var, Texas. Yeah, I'm just looking for anything that's going back and forth, and Bakersfield to Washington is about one of the few that I see. Okay, here's one. Well, I was going to look at this San Marcos, California to Phoenix, Arizona, because it has a really good rate on it. But you look right there in the middle, it's 80,000 pounds. We saw that one on Truck Stop. Just not a lot staying in California. Here we go. Well, there's another one. Oro Grande, California to San Diego, 580 a mile, but it's 70,000 pounds. Okay, let's see. And Truck Stop, you got to do something about. Here's the thing too. You can go in here and you can pick your category, and this is very frustrating, and this is the only issue I have with Truck Stop. And it's not only in this category, it's in other categories. They've got all these different specific categories that you can choose from. So I go in, I list power only, and I say, "Hey, what's in power only?" And I go out here and look, and what Truck Stop does is they add in other categories. And I called them up one time because I was doing cargo van, and they were adding in van and all these other types of things, and straight trucks and all this. And they said, "Oh, well, you get to look at more loads." I said, "I don't want to look at more loads. I only want to look at the loads I want to look at. Why would you give me a choice if you're just going to add in everything?" Because I can't do van loads. I don't have a lift gate, back then. But here we go again. I only want to see power only, but they're putting in, as you can see right here, if you look down, like this one, San Diego to Shreveport, Louisiana, LDOT. That's a loadout trailer. They've added that category in automatically, even though I don't want to see it. So it just makes it very difficult when I'm competing with a lot of other people out there. And every time I refresh this, I'm only seeing 3 loads at a time, so I have to scroll through here. And if I'm having to scroll through 100 loadout trailers just to see the few power only, and then I find out that the power only, they're scamming me, they're really loadout trailers too, then I'm not going to be able to find an actual loadout trailer. And as I'm flipping through here, you can see all of these, well, with the exception of this one right here, is a loadout trailer. So let's look at this one. Looks like it's power only, but it's only 21 feet. You've got to be careful on those. Sometimes those little pulp trailers, and sometimes they will only go on a single axle truck. So yeah, just flipping through every single one of these is loadouts. Even though these are all TQL doing this, even though they know they've got it listed in the wrong category, it's just very frustrating. And this is what you've got to look forward to. And again, there's another one where Truck Stop deems it necessary to add in categories I do not want. Let's just take a look real quick at vans. Some of you want to see the van category, and let's look at that. This is going to be interesting. 600 loads. Now, right off the top, I've got this sorted out by rates. You saw some power-only rates that were getting well over $2 a mile. Look at this. This is a van. You have to have your own van. Long Beach to California, $2.15 a mile. Not only are you making a van payment, you're having to wait there for 2 or 3 hours to get loaded. You're having to go to the other end, wait 2 or 3 hours to get loaded. Look at those rates: $1.44 a mile, $1.63 a mile. Don't tell anybody. I don't want everybody to know, but lots of times I'm making the same rate or better than van people. And on top of that, I'm not waiting to get loaded. I'm not waiting to get unloaded. So even a cheaper rate sometimes turns out better than owning your own van. So there's just a quick look at the van loads. All right, I'm getting long-winded on this. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that I was going to do a couple of different places on that load board video, but I'm doing California this time. I had somebody else ask me about the Chicago area. Chicago area is a whole different animal, and you're talking about, it's going to look worse than Los Angeles with all the loadout trailers and all the scammers and all that crap on there. So that would have to be a standalone video. Sorry about that. But I also mentioned earlier that I don't show where I'm working at anymore. A couple of years ago, I had a really nice dedicated run, and I ended up losing it because of racism and the good old buddy system. But there came a point, I'd done this load off and on for about a year and a half, 2 years, and it was very profitable. It was right near my house, and so what happened was that I had a viewer who was watching my videos and really doing their homework. They were doing some real good detective work, and it had to have been somebody local. It had to have been somebody that had been at one of those facilities I was either picking up at or delivering to. And so, they just put all these clues together. And so one day I'm on the run, and I get a call from the agent. He said, "Hey, have you got a YouTube channel?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, apparently somebody is watching it, and they're trying to steal the loads from you." And I said, "Well, I haven't put any details as far as where it picks up and all that." I said, "I don't understand how they..." And so somebody called him. And the other thing, I guess it was just luck, but Swift has hundreds of agents, I'm guessing. I don't know how many. But it was just luck of the draw that they called in and they got the guy that I've been working with. But they called in. He said, this guy called in, asked me if I had a run going from a certain point to a certain point. And he said, at first he told him he didn't have those. And he said, "Well, I know you got them." And he goes, "Well, what I mean is I don't have any available. I've got a guy on them." And he said, "Yeah, I know that." He goes, "But I can do them for less than that guy." And the agent said, well, sort of scratching his head, "How do you know what he's doing it for?" And that's something I did put on my channel. But so he goes, "Yeah, I can do them for this amount." And he goes, "Listen, I got this guy on him. I trust him, so I'm going to keep him on it." And the guy was just he wasn't going to take no for an answer. So finally they got done. He hung up, and that's when he called me. He goes, "Yeah, he said, you might want to be careful what information you're putting out there." He goes, I'm not changing." He goes, "I'm keeping you on the account." But yeah, this guy was real insistent. And so somebody was trying to steal my account from me. And I went back and I looked at several of those videos I had done, and I never could find in any one of them that said where I was at or where I was delivering to or any specifics, but you could see me in a few of them driving into certain places. So whoever it was really doing some detective work and trying to steal my account from me. So now there are times when I want to make a decent video and me driving into a place and backing up and parking, and I have to think, first of all, is this account that I'm doing more than once? And if I show too much, somebody's going to know where I'm at. They're going to know what I'm bidding. They're going to, all those things. And now I just can't trust, to put too much information out there. And it's funny because I watch a lot of other trucking channels, and I see a couple of these guys who are saying, yeah, I pick up this load right across from my house. And not only are they showing their house and where their house is, but they're showing where they're picking up this load and how much they're doing it for. And, they're bragging on how the rates they're getting. I'm thinking, well, some of these YouTubers have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of subscribers. So, you're going to have one that tried to do me that way, and they're going to try to steal it from you. So you got to be careful. So that's why I'm not showing a whole lot of coming into these facilities, especially this account that I'm on right now. But I think this video is going to be terribly long as it is already. So I'm going to get off here, and you guys have a safe day.